Great, thank you, Emily. Welcome, everyone. Today, I'm excited to present some new Q4 product offerings from Certara, hosted Phoenix and Integral. A bit of a background about myself. I do have a BS in molecular biology and an MS in pharmacology. For many years, I was an instructor at Certara University, conducting training courses at customer sites, as well as at the FDA and at universities in graduate programs. And I've been the Phoenix product manager since 2019 to help improve the software through customer feedback. A brief segment on what is Phoenix. So Certara's Phoenix platform is the leading PK/PD modeling and simulation software used worldwide by 11,000 researchers at biopharmaceutical companies, academic institutions, and global regulatory agencies, including 11 divisions of the US FDA. Phoenix takes the winning formula of win-non-lin, combining its trusted algorithms with built-in, easy-to-use graphical user interface and textual editor for advanced analysis. Features that support compliance and efficiency in the latest version, Phoenix 8.4, include a global industry standard PK/PD analysis platform, visual workflows that can be reused and locked to maintain compliance, increase efficiency, and create reports, high-quality tables and figures, a project-centric design to easily store, share, and reuse Phoenix projects, and a fully integrated validation suite for fast automated software validation. The Phoenix platform is a global platform, over 11,000 users worldwide, over 2,600 companies, 100% of the top 20 global biopharma in over 60 countries. The list goes on, but we also have people trained in Phoenix and have many peer-reviewed articles that cite Phoenix. I also wanted to make a nod to the regulatory footprint, not just the US FDA, but around the world, the MHRA in Europe, and also the Therapeutic Goods Administration in Australia, and NMPA in China, and so on. Some key functionalities of the Phoenix platform include probably the best and well-known is win-non-lin. That is used for individual PK/PD modeling, non-compartmental analysis, and bioequivalence and related studies. So Phoenix is a unified user interface, and these 6 items that I'm showing you are different modules that can be for which licenses can be purchased within the software package, but it has one application that the user uses for any of these 6 modules. Next, we have the IVIVC toolkit. That stands for in vitro in vivo correlation, and primarily this is used in formulation development. NLME stands for nonlinear mixed effects modeling, and that is used for population PK/PD analyses. We also offer validation suites, which can be used to validate the win-non-lin and NLME modules. PK submit can be used for automated PK analysis that's centered on NCA, but it's designed to do high throughput creation of tables, figures, and listings, as well as the creation of CDISC domains from NCA outputs. And then lastly, we have Integral, which is a secure central data repository that can be used to achieve 21 CFR Part 11 compliance. So that's the Phoenix platform in a nutshell. You can buy one or any combination of these 6 modules. So the next topic, why would Certara offer to host Phoenix? So the rationale here is that Phoenix is architected and designed as a desktop analysis software platform. However, over time, we've learned that many of our customers have long asked for server-based deployments of Phoenix or virtual environments. One example is the Phoenix desktop application installed on a server where the end users access the server through a Citrix client. This can present challenges when many users access that same server at the same time with respect to RAM, temporary storage space, access to shared drives, and so on. I did want to point out that Certara IT has both the technical and the domain expertise to host Phoenix, and this offers the following advantages. One is optimization of the Phoenix application performance for end users. So if your end users are saying, hey, they feel like the Phoenix application is slow, it's on a server and it's taking a while, Phoenix hosted might be for you. Second, it's scalable with respect to the number of users and processor cores. By default, we give 8 cores and 32 gigabytes of RAM, but that can be scaled up even higher if needed. Certara also provides validation, and this is really key because kind of a roadblock for many customers to upgrade to the latest version is validation of the software. So I wanted to point out that Certara actually validates the software environment for you as a service with the Phoenix hosted package, and that's a really big deal. Certara also manages change control with respect to updates to Amazon Workspaces, which is where we host the Phoenix application, as well as Phoenix version upgrades. So the latest version of Phoenix came out in May of this year. It's version 8.4. We do plan to release an 8.5 in Q2 of next year. And when that time comes around, Certara can perform the version upgrade to 8.5 as well as the validation of the 8.5 installation. So software as a service. And then lastly, there's flexible access. Phoenix is natively a Windows application. However, any compute environment where you can install AWS can be used to access Phoenix hosted. And that does include Mac machines. And we know that many of our users prefer Mac as well. I just want to point out some of the performance metrics that we obtained. So we did this by running the validation suites, which are standardized automated tests, and looked at the runtime. So on a typical laptop installation, the Wind Island validation suite took about 5 minutes to run. On a Citrix server, it took nearly double that amount of time. However, with Phoenix hosted in AWS, we're able to match or even exceed the performance directly installed on the laptop. Another aspect of hosted Phoenix is the job management system, also known as JMS, which is used for remote processing. The JMS has the following features. It allows remote processing of workflow objects, such as NCA or large NLME models, or you can do remote processing of entire workflows. So why would someone want to do remote processing? Well, the reason is maybe you have a very large data set with thousands of rows, or you're doing a large bootstrapping run in population model development and validation, or you have a large workflow, and any of these scenarios where you expect, hey, this might take 5 minutes or more to run all of this. I don't want to just click run the whole workflow and wait for 5 minutes to finish. So what you can do is if you're anticipating it's going to take a while to run, you can send the processing job off to the remote server, which will run it for you in the background. Meanwhile, you can continue doing your other work in Phoenix while the remote job is processing. Then when the job is complete, you can just go back to your job queue, pull the job back into the Phoenix application, and keep working. Certara IT has both the technical and understanding to configure and optimize the JMS. I did want to point out the validation as a service. The validation package is integrated within Phoenix. It runs the standard test cases in the Phoenix hosted environment, comparing generated numeric results to reference output results. It produces a non-editable PDF validation report. And it also comes with validation suite template documents. And Certara, even though this is available as a separate product, Certara uses the validation suite to validate the Phoenix hosted environment for you. So just to summarize, the power of cloud computing with Phoenix hosted, Certara handles all the installation and upkeep, including automated backup and restore, license activation and installation handled from end to end, with flexible access from PC or Mac environments. From the moment a user first logs into Phoenix hosted, it's already validated. It's at the commercial level 3 validated software level, the same exact software that runs if you were to install it on your desktop, as well as the same version used by the FDA. And lastly, it's optimized for performance and scalability. It has the job management system for background processing, and the performance metrics are published as part of the UAT. Okay, so that's the Phoenix hosted environment. Next, what I would like to talk about is the Integral product. So Integral is a data repository. It's all about data management, it's about compliance, and it's about getting data into and out of Phoenix hosted. So the Certara Integral data repository capabilities include compliance, can be used to ensure 21 CFR Part 11 compliance criteria for regulatory submissions. It's a secure and third-party verified, pre-validated, cloud-based, SaaS-hosted technology. Integral provides version control, traceability, and auditability of data. And Integral also introduces operational efficiencies, such as one data and model repository, provide data integrity and improve workflow. It's accessible through the Phoenix platform, a web browser, or the technology-agnostic client application. It enables quick search and visualization of data, and it adheres to and transforms CDISC data standards into searchable content. Moreover, in addition to being something you use in your organization, it allows sharing and reporting of internal data with CROs and partners. It also comes with an implementation guidance included to maximize efficiencies and best practices. So this is a flow diagram that shows use cases with interacting between Phoenix hosted and Integral. So I'm going to start in the center here. So Integral is the data repository where the PK data is stored. And then on the right side of the diagram, this is typically what, if you were to buy this package, you would do the workflow that you would use to access Integral. So firstly, a fully licensed user can use Phoenix to connect to Integral, pull PK/PD data into Phoenix, run the analysis, and then save it back to Integral with an electronic signature and an audit trail. One can also access Integral through the web browser. Primarily, this is used to either visualize data or to perform administrative tasks, such as add new users, manage users, change user roles within the system, and so on. So there are administrator users, there's fully licensed users that can perform analysis, there are QA type users that have a read-only access to the system, and so on. And the web browser access allows administration of those user roles. And then thirdly, in your data science environment, maybe you use some third-party applications, such as non-mem or SAS. And you can actually store outputs from those third-party applications in Integral as well via the Integral client app that comes with the Integral package. Okay. Now, if you do any outsourcing at your organization, it's also possible to extend. So everything on the right is operating with Phoenix hosted and Integral at the customer site, but it's hosted by Certara. But if you do want to, if you do any outsourcing and maybe you have a partner, you can allow the partner to have access to the Integral system on a very limited basis, meaning that they only have access to the studies that you explicitly grant to the partner, and they do not have access to all the studies in the system. And then, but if the partner is assigned access to a study, they can perform any of the job functions that an employee would do, including using Phoenix to perform analysis and save results back to your Integral in a compliant fashion. Okay, so a few more features of Integral. Integral does use Okta for user authentication and management. It's a cloud-based application. Integral is a cloud-based application hosted by Certara in AWS. There's an Okta login for all users, no matter where you're logging in from, the web browser or the Phoenix plugin. We do support single sign-on for Okta, Azure AD, and Ping. And this is an example of the login. So typically your username is your email address, and then your password is either a password that you come up with on your own, or if you have SSO enabled, it would be your domain password. A bit about the different Integral user roles. So based on the different license types, the administrator is going to be the first Integral user. They can add users to the system, grant system roles to the users, as well as have read access to the studies and the security administration module. A fully licensed user is one who can create root folders in the system, create new study folders, have read access, edit folders, upload data, save analyses, delete folders, lock folders, and set blinding. There are also additional license types such as QA. The QA has read-only access to all the studies, as well as the ability to view blinding status. The partner is a limited version of the fully licensed user. This would be an external partner who will perform analysis for you, but does not have access to all studies. They're not able to lock or unlock folders or set blinding or anything like that. And then lastly, there's the archivist role, who has read access to the studies and can lock and unlock folders. So if a study is locked, only the archivist can unlock studies. Okay. This is an example of user management in Integral. So in this case, there is a usage group called All Read. Members of this All Read group will have read access to root folders, data folders, and library folders, but they will not have access to do things like edit, delete, or lock folders. Okay. And there are a variety of different groups that you can set up in your, there's some groups that are set up by default when you first get Integral, and you can also make custom security groups if you want. Okay. When someone performs analysis in Phoenix and saves it back, they are prompted for an electronic signature and a reason that they are updating the system. So in this case, the analyst might have run a Phoenix project and saved it back. They might have added some plots and tables to the Phoenix project, and they're saving it back and reflecting the fact that that's what they did. And when you save a existing version of a study and put a new version in, it's incremented up by 1 revision. So after putting in the audit trail version, the revision in this case incremented up from revision 1 to revision 2. There's a date timestamp indicating when the activity occurred, who the user was, first name, last name, and email address, and the reason they gave for updating the system, which in this case is add plots and tables. Okay. Within Integral, this is an example in the web browser. It's also possible to view data. So in this case, within a study, the user selected this CSV file on the left pane, and then the right pane shows the contents of that file. So an analyst might take a peek at this to make sure that they're looking at the right data set before they dive into performing analysis in Phoenix, as an example. Similarly, other file types can be visualized. In this case, the user has selected an R script that's designed to produce VPC plots, and the main viewing window shows the contents of that R script. Okay, so just to kind of summarize, so you might be asking yourself, okay, well, we have ways of storing data, you know, and there are third-party ways to store data, and that's fine. These are things like SharePoint or GitHub, but some of the things that Certara Integral offers that these third-party solutions do not have include the 21 CFR Part 11 compliant electronic signatures, as well as the audit trails. Certara Integral also provides versioning, file versioning, project save points, file linking, so it's possible to link to files in another study if you want to pull in an additional file. It is pre-validated and provided as a service, whereas the SharePoints and OneDrives are not. There's also configurable metadata in Integral. Metadata things are like the compound or the indication, things that kind of identify key properties of the study. And those are very good for searching and data mining when you get to a point where you have many studies in your system. Integral also supports the CDISC standard, as well as the associated searchable content. And it's accessible directly via the Phoenix plugin. Okay. And I did want to point out one other thing. There was a release of Integral in October of this year. It's Integral 23.10.1. And what we added here is a new study type. This is the exploratory study type, where no e-signature is required. So by default, folders all require e-signatures. That's indicated by this shield icon here. We did have some customers say, hey, what if I want to do exploratory work? This isn't going to be for a submission, but I just want to be able to run my analysis and use the repository without having to do e-signatures. And that is tracked in here. Any of these folders with a shield icon will have e-signature required set to true. The ones where you say that it does not require it will have e-signature required set to false. So there's still full tracking and compliance, just the ability to control whether you need e-signatures for a given study or not. And once you create the study, that's permanent. It does require e-signatures or it doesn't. Okay. So at this point, I've provided the background on the system. Now I would like to do a demonstration of using Phoenix Hosted with Integral. So I'm going to switch over to the Phoenix Hosted environment. So this is within Amazon Workspaces. I'm using this Amazon Workspaces client application to access Phoenix Hosted. And I have here a virtual desktop with Phoenix installed onto it. It does have a Windows-like file system. You get a D drive with 100 megabytes of storage space. You get 8 CPUs and 32 gigabytes of RAM. So it's as if you're on a virtual Windows desktop that's running Phoenix. And here I have the Phoenix application open. This is the latest version, Phoenix 8.4. You can see the validation evidence here. The validation reports are in the validation plugin. It is pre-validated. You can view the report at any time in a PDF format. So this is the validation report, and you can look at the compute environment. It has a summary of the tests that were run, everything about the environment where it's installed, the number of CPUs, which is 8, the installation qualification test, all of the different functional tests of the Win-on-Lin features, including the data tools, the PK/PD modeling tools, bioequivalence tools, and there's a whole battery of NCA-related tests as well, based on route of administration, trapezoidal area method used, and so on. So all of that comes as part of the pre-validated Phoenix package. At this point, I would like to show an example workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to Integral. So I select Integral plugin, and then I go to the browser. This is the Integral browser, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So I do have Integral set up for single sign-on. So, and since I'm already logged into my domain, I'm able to just log through. There's a number of studies in here. I'm going to access one of the studies that I created. So I'm going to drill down into my analyses and find an example project. So I'm going to take this project and select the ... and go to load save point. So I'm retrieving a project from the Integral repository into Phoenix because I want to perform some analysis. So I want to just briefly go over the data that's in here. So in the main observation data set, I have columns such as the study ID, subject IDs, sample matrix, which is plasma in this case. This is a 2-period crossover study. So period column indicating period 1 or period 2. Treatment description, it's the either integral or integral plus rifampin. The treatment route, which is PO. The planned nominal times, the actual sample collection times, the concentrations, and a number of demographic variables. And I also have a doses sheet, which indicate for each subject and period what treatment did they get and what was the dosage amount and at what time did it occur. Okay. Now, I have this workflow here. And just as an example here, I'm just going to make this whole workflow go out of date. So I'm going to use one of these data link objects. I'm going to unmap the study ID. That turned everything downstream red to indicate it's out of sync. And then I'll go ahead and remap the study ID and run the data link. And now let's say that I expect that running this workflow, I want to rerun this workflow, but I expect it'll take 5 minutes or more. And I don't want to just sit around for 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use remote execute and then click submit. And it's going to let me send this entire workflow off to the JMS for processing. So it says it was submitted successfully. I can track the project under Window View Jobs. And so this is my job queue. And right now it has a status of submitted. Now, in the meantime, I might notice, oh, hey, I forgot to do my, my raw concentration table. So maybe what I want to do is, so I've got a table of final parameters, but I don't have a raw concentration table. So I'm going to go ahead and send this main worksheet off to reporting and then table. Place this in the main workflow. And maybe I'll have subject IDs as the row ID, the nominal times as column stratification, maybe the treatment description as row stratification, and then I want to report the concentrations. And then maybe in precision alignment, maybe I want this formatted to 3 significant figures. So I'll set that to 3 sig figs for everything. And then, hang on, I want to change this. I want to change this to subject as my row ID. So 3 sig figs for everything, but for subject, maybe I just want 0 decimal places. Okay. And then maybe I want some summary statistics. I'll include the base statistics. And then for the table body, make a page break on row stratification. Okay, so now I have my table all set up. I've created my summary, raw concentration summary table. So I'm going to name it as such, raw conc summary table. Okay, so I'm good there. And then now let me go back and check the status of my job. Okay, so while I was constructing that table, the workflow ran in the JMS, and it's now the results are in the queue. So I will go ahead and merge the results back and say, yes, I do want to save the changes. Okay, so now it is compressing the project and saving it back. The job queue has cleared out. And now I'm just going to go ahead and have a look at that same study in the Integral browser. So I'm in Chrome now. We support Chrome, Edge, or Firefox. I happen to be in Chrome, and I'm going to sign into Integral through Chrome. And I want to see the what the system did with my analysis that I just saved back. So I'm going to go ahead and locate that same study that I was just working on. And this is that same project, okay? And so I've selected the project, and I can go to the History tab, and I can see that I need to make sure to save. So I'm going to select Integral, Save. So I'm saving this project from Phoenix back to Integral. I'll go to the Save options. I did want to highlight that it is possible, in addition to saving the project, you can also save out specific worksheets, such as final parameters pivoted, in a CSV or Excel format. So what I need to do here is I'm going to save this final parameters as a CSV in addition to the project. Now I need to give an audit reason. So I'm going to say that I'm rerun the workflow and add raw conc table. Then I'll click next. And this is the part where I'm doing the electronic signature, because this is a compliant workflow. So I'll go ahead and log in. My SSO requires multi-factor authentication, so I'm going through that process now. Okay. And now I will go ahead and authenticate. So okay. Okay, I have completed multi-factor authentication. So now it's going to go through, and it's saving the project back to Integral. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to go back to the browser, and I'm going to refresh, and then go back down into my project that I was working on, and now I'm at revision 9. So on November 30th, the revision went up from 8 to 9. It's got the date timestamp with my login ID and the reason that I gave rerun workflow and add raw concentration table. Okay. Okay, so that's an example of using Phoenix hosted in combination with Integral. So at this point, I would like to go back here and talk about the bundles that are available. So we have Phoenix hosted and Phoenix hosted compliant. The two main bundles available are, the first one is Phoenix hosted installed on the AWS server, and the access here includes one WinOnLin license, one Integral admin, and one Integral limited, which is the non-GXP. That's the folder that does not require e-signatures. So you've just got the data repository, and Integral is being used just to get data into and out of the system. It does include the JMS server and the Amazon Workspaces server managed, maintained, and validated by Certara. Our second bundle is the Phoenix hosted compliant. It includes Phoenix installed on the AWS server with the one WinOnLin license, one Integral admin, one fully compliant full user, a JMS server, Amazon Workspaces managed, maintained, and validated by Certara. Okay, so these are the two bundles, and all you need to do is get in touch with your account manager and describe which of the bundles you're interested in. and your account manager can get you started with either just buying the system straight to purchase or with an evaluation. Okay, and with that, I would like to conclude my presentation and turn it over to Emily to see if we have any questions that came in from the attendees.
Thank you, Chris, for such a wonderful presentation. Yes, we've already received a few questions, but if you have not already done so, please submit any questions that you have through the control panel. So the first one we have is kind of a two-part question. So the first is, how often is Phoenix updated?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we release a new version of Phoenix approximately once per year. So our latest release was Phoenix 8.4 in May, and we anticipate the Phoenix 8.5 release to come at a similar time next year.
And then the other part of that is, will I be notified when Phoenix is updated in the hosted environment?
Yes, you will. We give 1 month notice prior to updating the system. That way, you don't just get caught by surprise and log in one day and suddenly have a new version. We give 1 month notice before the new updates go out so that you have time to prepare for that. But since we're doing the change control and the validation, beyond just an acknowledgement that it's happening, there hopefully isn't a whole lot for you to do. But we do give the notice.
We got another question here. What types of machines, such as like Windows or Mac, can access hosted Phoenix?
Yeah, so you just go to, when you purchase Phoenix Hosted, we give you a download link for the Amazon client app. That's that little red cube icon that I was showing to you a little bit earlier, and it's featured on the little laptop visual there. And it's very flexible, that application. They've got a version for Windows, they've got a version for Mac, they even have a version for Linux. So it's very flexible, and if you are using a Mac, you can access Phoenix Hosted from there.
And then we have one more question in the chat right now. It says, where geographically is Phoenix hosted?
Yeah, so we're setting up data centers around the world. Currently, the Phoenix Hosted is in US East 1, which is in Northern Virginia, with plans to include data centers in Frankfurt and Tokyo as well.
Excellent. Okay, that's all the questions I see coming in the chat now. But if you didn't have a chance to answer or submit your question during the session, please feel free to reach out to us. Chris, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. And thank you everyone for joining us today for the hosted Phoenix and Integral. I look forward to collaborating with you all in the future.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everyone.